But the story of leukemia, the story of cancer, isn't the story of doctors who struggle and survive, moving from one institution to another. It is the story of patients who struggle and survive, moving from one embankment of illness to another. Resilience, inventiveness, and survivorship, qualities often ascribed to great physicians, are reflective qualities, emanating first from those who struggle with illness and only then mirrored by those who treat them. If the history of medicine is told through the stories of doctors, it is because their contributions stand in place of the more substantive heroism of their patients. So that's the first passage. And then the second one. It is late one evening in the fellows' room, and the hospital around us has fallen silent, save for the metallic clink of cutlery being brought up from meals. The air outside is heavy with impending rain. The seven of us, close friends by now, are compiling lists of patients to pass on to the next class of fellows. When Lauren begins to read her list aloud, calling out the names of those in her care who have died over our 2-year fellowship. Suddenly inspired, she pauses and adds a sentence to each name as a sort of epitaph. That night, I sit alone with my list, remembering the names and faces late into the evening. How does one memorialize a patient? These men and women have been my friends, my interlocutors, my teachers, a surrogate family. I stand up at my desk as if at a funeral, my ears hot with emotion, my eyes full of tears. I look around the room at the empty desks and note how swiftly the last 2 years have reshaped all 7 of us. Eric, cocksure, ambitious and smart, is humbler and more introspective. Edwin, preternaturally cheerful and optimistic in his first month, talks openly about resignation and grief. Rick, an organic chemist by training, has become so infatuated with clinical medicine that he doubts that he will return to the laboratory. Lauren, guarded and mature, enlivens her astute assessments with jokes about oncology. Our encounter with cancer has rounded us all. It has smoothed and polished us like we were rocks.
When I think of the Emperor of all maladies, the first thing that comes to mind is simply daunting. It's big, its size is a bit uninviting, but the story that unravels is worth every minute and every second spent. This book, written by New York oncologist and Columbia University professor Siddhartha Mukherjee, is nothing short of riveting. Mukherjee weaves the historical background of cancer with his personal experiences in such a way that it truly feels not like a biography of cancer, but rather a story of humanity. Mukherjee's journey started with one simple question posed to him as a young physician. A patient asked, "What is this disease that I am fighting?" Even with the best education money could buy behind him, Mukherjee had no answer. There was no tell-all book for how to guide to solve such a large-scale problem in one simplified answer. Mukherjee's answer came from 5 years of devotion and one heck of a big novel. It is a history that spans across space, time, and people. We learn about the history of Dr. Faber, a man who bridged the gap between medical disciplines, as well as a prominent socialite, Mary Lassiter, who used her influence to force Nixon to start the crusade against cancer. From the political to the scientific, we also see the personal. We are faced with the battle of Mukherjee's own patient, Carla, whose story constantly leaves the reader wondering how this 30-year-old kindergarten teacher will survive against leukemia. At the core of this novel is progress. The history of cancer illustrates progress as a means of healing and innovation. We learn about scientists, ideas, and key developments that ultimately gave individuals options. These different therapies give patients back the simple human right that cancer took away, the freedom to have control over their bodies and over their lives. We also see in Mukherjee's novel that progress is never easily achieved. Although we know now that disease sees no color or sexual orientation, at one point it did. Mukherjee discusses the breakthrough in AIDS that made not just a disease about gays or Africa, but a human issue. It took the progress of many enlightened individuals to change these prejudices and make the world aware. Students entering Trent this fall will similarly see that our university constantly encourages students of diverse backgrounds to found groups and raise awareness in the community and in the university. This book also illustrates the interdisciplinary nature of our world and tries to encompass it in a text. From the study of cancer in science, we discover that cancer is a disease that spreads through the social, cultural, and philosophical levels of our understanding. First-year students will find the flexibility to take courses that broaden horizons while simultaneously narrowing their focus is an opportunity that Trent readily provides. This book infiltrates cultural studies, biology, Canadian studies, international development, and history to create a comprehensive understanding, a technique Trent also uses to ensure that its students fully understand issues so they can provide better solutions. Lastly, the ambiguity of cancer reflects uncertainty that first-year students will inevitably feel entering Trent. Mukherjee describes cancer as an illness that strips someone of their identity, dresses them in a patient's smock, and assumes absolute control over all of their actions. But in this ambiguity, one finds out the true sense of who they really are. They say the toughest paper you'll ever write as a student is answering the question of who are you. One does not enter Trent claiming to have the answer. Through research, motivation, and 100 million cups of coffee later, we all come out knowing that the surface of our identity has finally been scratched. Siddhartha Mukherjee answers the question that we all wonder. What is this thing that invades the lives of our friends and families? It is not an easy feat for Mukherjee, but it is one that he nonetheless undertakes. It is the story that we can all read, learn from, and educate others around us about. We do not need an encyclopedia or the Oxford English to understand cancer. We do not need these things because cancer is a problem that is distinctly human. June Goodfield said that cancer begins and ends with people, but it is the space in between the beginning and the end that Mukherjee ultimately illustrates is the story worth reading.